What's up, y'all? It's me, the Bob the Doctor, and I'm back at it again with another video here on the beta for 0.9 of last Epoch. And I've been messing around with another character. I recently started up a Primalist, and I've been running the Primalist, and I figured I would show you guys what build I was up to. I am running a minion slash totem build, and I have mastered in Shaman. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little bit of what I got going on here. I mastered in the Summon Thorn Totem, the Eterra's Blessing, which is like a heal. I got Summon Storm Totem, which is the main master ability for shamans, as well as Summon Bear, which I picked up from the Beastmaster passives, which I'll show you here in a little while. And then I picked up Summon Wolf as my last one, just so that I can take advantage of the maximum amount of synergy from using the different items that currently are available to me. Now I have not hit maximum level for the game yet on this character, but currently I am working my way there. Now, first off, since we are running a minion slash totem build, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little bit of my gear. Now, obviously, since I'm not max level, I haven't had a chance to min-max this at all, really. But we're going to go ahead and start off with the weapons. I am dual wielding, which we will show the passive ability that allowed me to dual wield here in a little bit. But I'm currently wielding a sickle, which sickles give you increased minion damage, as well as I have the affix of 51% increased minion spell damage, which increases both of my totems damages, the thorns and the storm, as well as the spell abilities that my bear and my wolves can use, which we'll go over that in a little bit. The other stats and things like that are not really important. Excuse me. We're mostly only going for minion damage, minion health, minion spell damage. Minion spell damage being one of the biggest ones because that ups our totem damage. And our totems are pretty much the be-all carrier of this build, our main bulk of damage. Now going on to our body armor, we have our main sustain here. We're running Euron's Wisdom, which, I mean, I haven't really found many other chest plates better than this so far. I'm just under level 60, so obviously there's plenty of room to find better equipment out there. But currently this has 119 to health, 85 armor, as well as melee cold damage when above 65% health, which I don't really use melee right now, and melee damage leached as health, which I don't use melee damage. So both of those are kind of useless. Now going on to my second weapon, I currently have a offhand falchion, which, I mean, I would love to have another offhand sickle to get that minion damage, but this one has 82% increased minion spell damage as an affix, which that's just really high for minion spell damage for a one-handed weapon. So realistically, we're just trying to get that minion spell damage as high as possible. Now we have here, my amulet is a minion amulet, 9% increased minion damage, 23% increased minion critical strike chance, which critical strike chance is not additive, it's multiplicative, so that's not actually as much critical strike chance as you think it is, but it still adds on a little bit so that they can actually get a critical strike. Now on top of that, I mostly have this helmet for survivability. This one has 10% elemental resistance, which means it gives me resistance to all three elements, as well as it gives me a 22 to endurance threshold, which endurance threshold is basically once you hit your endurance threshold, you start taking a percentage less damage, like damage reduction once you hit a certain amount, and that ups your threshold. So that's pretty good. This helps me survive in certain circumstances. Going on to my rings, I'm currently using one minion ring and one elemental resistance ring. The minion ring is obviously for more minion damage and more minion health and more minion critical strike multiplier. So for those little off chances that I do get a crit, they deal more damage with their crits. As well as on this minion ring, I have elemental resistance, which is all elements, and as well as that on stacked on top, excuse me, 7% fire resistance. So that increases that fire just a little bit more. Now over here to this elemental resistance ring, 14% is pretty high for all resistance basically, as well as it has 8% physical resistance on it, as well as 2 to attunement. Attunement is my main stat as a primalist, because that increases all of my minions scaling, as so that's their damage, their health, all that. So going on to my gloves. My gloves are a complete mismatch. The only reason I am wearing these gloves is because they have 30% void resistance, 80 armor, and 13 to attunement. All of the other stats are completely useless because they only apply when you're using judgment. So other than that, it's just a lot of attunement to help scale my minions. It is a pretty dang decent piece of equipment right there. That's a lot of attunement. So going on to my boots, I currently have armor and increased movement speed. I mean, this is just your plain run of the mill. I just went for vitality, attunement, extra armor, and elemental resistance. I currently have a loot filter set to get a lot of these items, and as you can see by my gold, I've been just kind of like running in and out, in and out, in and out, selling items. A lot of these things you'll find are not worth much, but look right here, you'll find that the stabs and rings and things like that are worth quite a bit, and you can stack up quite a bit of cash just by town portaling and going back in and out. Especially if you're running offline mode, you can kind of just farm areas infinitely. If you know where a good elite mob pack spawns, I found a pretty decent one. And eventually they don't really give any XP, so you don't get too far ahead of the story or anything like that. But it can be a very, very good thing to just stack that cash early game. Now, as far as this goes, I've been going for a while, but now with the relic, my relic has not been replaced in quite some time, but it is a minion relic. It has an increased minion physical damage, as well as increased minion damage, as well as void resistance and health regeneration. Those are some decent stats, but realistically, I would want to get spell minion damage on this eventually. But yeah, that is the last of my gear setup. Now, when we go over to my idols, my idols are very, mix and match because it's just whatever I can get over the time. Increased health resistance, but you basically just want to go for any extra resistances, any extra elemental resistances, and any of these special ones that can give you extra abilities. Like this one, 9% chance to cast an avalanche boulder at a nearby enemy on spell cast. Now, it just so happens that when I'm putting down a totem, that is considered me casting a spell, and technically this can proc. It's a very low chance that it does happen, but it can happen every now and then. An increased minion critical strike chance as well, multiplicative, not additive, so it's not like they're gonna have 50% crit chance with just the 2 items I've mentioned so far, but that does add on a little bit, as well as increased minion poison damage for my spikes, because they currently do poison damage. They will upgrade to cold damage soon, so I'll eventually get rid of that. But just a couple different ones that give physical resist, element resist, void resist, increased minion physical damage, right here, increased minion melee attack speed. See, this one is actually a really good one. If I could get another one like that and put it here, that would really be really nice for a 20% increased minion melee attack speed. I don't know how high those can scale. I'm sure that you can get ones with higher percentages. So that is my gear and my idols. Let's go ahead and go over my skills just a little bit so I can show you where I put my points. Now, with my Summon Thorn Totem, I have not put the max Forested Expanse because that would up my totems up to 5. Currently, I'm trying to wait until I get Totemic Wisdom maxed out because it does take quite a bit of mana to plop all these down, because I currently am using Grove Mind so that I drop all of my totems all at once, as well as increased health and duration from Eternal Forest. I only put the 3 points that I needed just to get to Grove Mind. So basically, 3 Enforced Expanse so that I have 3 extra totems, 45% extra health, and 3 extra seconds of duration. And I drop all my totems at once, but it costs extra mana to use the spell. I have 45% increased mana efficiency, and I have put 2 points in my poison chance. I'm going for Pillars of Heorot, which will allow me to do cold damage and frostbite, which will allow me to freeze enemies with that spell eventually. But right now I am using it as my main elite killer, as I have went into double projectiles, into increased crit chance and damage, into single projectile, into maximum enemies pierced. Eventually this will be maxed out to where I can pierce up to 4 extra enemies, so I can hit 5 enemies per thorn, and as well as I can also double projectile. I'm gonna get that up to, I think it goes up to 21% chance. That's a pretty high chance to double that. So it's basically just gonna be freezing enemies, piercing enemies, doubling up, and eventually I'll pop on that 5th totem. So it'll be 5 thorns hitting all the time, sometimes doubling up, freezing. You know, you get the deal. And I'll show it here in action here in a little bit. This is my right click. My right click is Eterra's Blessing. That is a heal. This heal is actually incredibly OP. With this one, you are able to heal and energize a minion, increasing its size by 20% and its damage by 100%. Now, that buff is incredibly strong. You can apply that to your totems, you can apply that to your wolf, you can apply that to your bear. So all of your minions, all 4 of my abilities can be buffed by my right click, as well as healed. So it's a sustainability as well. I have put 4 points into Ardent's Touch, which I eventually will max out. That increases my minions' move speed, attack speed, and cast speed. Cast speed being one of the biggest ones, because if it does happen to hit a totem, my totem will then cast faster, and it stacks multiplicatively with a bunch of other things that I'm using for increased minion cast speed. But we'll go into that here in a little while. Right now, I have chance to refresh companion ability 50%, which I will eventually put 2 more points into that, so it refreshes 100%, because that will allow my minions to cast their specials more often as I am healing them. I have put binding heal to where even if I have, let's say, a dying minion, I can heal them, and I will heal myself for 45% of the amount as well as I also have triage enabled, so that I automatically target the lowest health ally. This is very like second screen friendly if you're one of those players that just wants to grind it out, get through the levels. Triage, I very much so suggest this. It ups the mana cost by 5, but you don't have to target the spell anymore. You can just cast it, just right click, and it'll just heal whoever in your party that you need, as well as overgrowth, chance to heal allies nearby target so that it AoEs. Now imagine once you're using overgrowth at level 4, this will be 100% chance. That means every time you heal, you'll heal all of your minions that are nearby 1 minion, and you self-heal with binding heal. So all of that with a little bit of extra mana efficiency, a little bit of increased healing, and then I would say the most important passive ability that you can get for this skill, which is Tranquil Spirit. Tranquil Spirit allows you to use Eterra's Blessing for 0 mana cost, but does not provide the additional buffs. This is perfect if you are a hardcore player, and you are looking for that spell that will keep you alive even if you do get into that random rut. Let's say you get surrounded, all your minions are off fucking around doing basically nothing. You can spam the A button on your minions to have them attack the nearby enemies on you while you spam Tranquil Spirit heals of Eterra's Blessing on yourself, because you're obviously the lowest ally in the group, and it'll continuously heal yourself over and over and over again. I have used this to save myself a couple of times for sure. as well as to sustain through heavy boss fights. Sometimes there's, there is dodging that you can do a little bit, but sometimes there's huge effects on the screen, and as long as you can survive those effects, you can then max heal yourself out with like 2 of these casts. Just a very, very OP spell. Going on to Summon Storm Totem. This is your master ability as the Shaman. This is fucking OP. This thing at level 1, you're definitely going to want to pick this up as soon as you hit level, I believe, 20 to hit the Shaman abilities. And this is going to be your go-to as far as your ability. That's going to be the ability you're going to be able to spam in the beginning, because your Thorn Totem is going to be mostly used for elites only in the beginning, until you get that mana efficiency maxed out on Thorn Totem. I have it at 3 of 5, I believe, and it still takes me quite a bit of mana. Once I have it maxed out, I will be able to more frivolously use that ability, but currently it is very much so a mana consumption kind of thing, where it's like you really just can't, frivolously use this one. So you, as soon as you unlock Storm Totem, this is going to be your bread and butter. This is going to be how you clear enemies. Now, as soon as you get this, you're most likely going to have high enough level to where your minimum specialized skill has 4 points. I highly suggest putting 4 points directly into Lightning Raider for 60% extra cast speed, which, like I was saying before, goes along with the other multiplicative skills like we were talking about. If you just so happen to heal your Storm Totem with Eterra's Blessing, you'll get that 25% increased buff. That's an 85% increased cast speed. That's a very, very fast lightning. I have then spec'd into area 60%, which will go up to 80% when I max it out, I believe. Yeah, I think so. If not 75%. And then I have melee lightning damage. This is going to go up. Obviously, I'm going to want to increase this to 5, because this means that my wolf and my bear, when they are near my storm totem, they increase their lightning damage. They gain melee lightning damage, which some of them, I believe my wolves already have lightning damage, so it just increases that even more, as well as I did go ahead and add on the extra damage for Storm Totem, which ups the mana cost, which perks into Thunder Totem. Thunder Totem is a 25% chance to cast instead of Storm Totem, which is basically just a buffed, cracked out version of Storm Totem, where it increases your damage, duration, health, and critical strike chance, as well as increases that mana cost for that one spell. So it is a little bit RNG. You can use up your mana really quick with this build, but you'll see that the with the amount of tunement and everything that you have on the Primalist, it really does balance out. I am now currently proccing into Static Field and going this way to increase my shock chance and move speed when enemies are shocked by the Storm Totem, so that I can go into a little bit faster of clears. Excuse me. But that would basically just make it to where it's a little bit easier for me to go through endgame maps a little bit faster. But other than that, this build already clears like a train, and I'll show you that here in just a moment. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish out these last 2 skills. This is very easy to explain. The bear, I'm just increasing damage, bleed, area. Roar does a taunt, so I've increased the roar duration and made it to where it heals the bear for more when he does roar. I've added Thorn Bear, so that when my bear is at a distance from an enemy, he can cast thorns, which is a lot like the Thorn Totem, where he can actually shoot thorns from his back and deal damage at a range, as well as having a chance to double damage with the Briar Thorns. Then for when he's in melee, I have Swipe for his melee ability, as well as Retaliatory Thorns, which allows him to retaliate with Thorn Burst, which is the ability over here. So basically, I've increased all of his abilities that allow him to do extra skills, and then I've made it to where he can summon Claw Totems when he gets kills. It's one of those things where he's not necessarily the carrier of the group, but he definitely is another body on the screen for enemies to be focusing on, and he can still deal substantial damage onto the Summon Wolf. The Summon Wolf I am using for a very, very similar reason. I've basically increased their damage. I've added cold damage. I increased their chill. And then I've made it to where they can, I can summon 2 of them, increasing my maximum companions to 3. So I can have 2 wolves and 1 bear. I'm currently speccing into movement speed and attack speed. That is my next move. I'm going into here, and then most likely going to go into seconds of haste when they howl. So every time they howl, they'll get more haste. But yeah, for right now, it's pretty much just health, damage, speed, and then lightning, retaliation, as well as damage per point of attunement, 4%. So this increases their damage quite a bit, considering I have like almost 40 attunement or some crazy amount of attunement. I'm sure it will be on the thumbnail of this video, but basically, scaling with attunement even more than they already scale with attunement, first off. So yeah, that's my current spell build and my armor and my idols, everything like that. Let's go ahead and go to my passives. On my passives, let's go ahead and start off with my primalist. As I was starting the game, I went ahead and maxed out my natural attunement to get that 8 extra attunement and lightning resistance and cold resistance. This is just a very good passive to take for survivability. I mean, if you don't have any other gear on that gives you lightning or cold, you have at least that 24%. You'll notice that a lot of enemies in this game use lightning damage, and lightning damage does a lot of damage in this game. As well as that, I've done Gift of the Wilderness because, I mean, along with that, like I was saying before, enemies do a lot of damage. You're going to want more health. So this increases not only your health, but your minions' health, and it procs, not procs, but it gets you a little bit further into the line. Once you've at least put 8 points here and 2 points here, you can then go into 10 points builds, etc., going further down the line. I put 1 point into Primal Medicine to increase minion damage and percent of potion healing received by minions, so that my minions can actually heal when I take a potion. 1 point is needed so that you can get that potion healing, but you can definitely do more if you want to be able to increase that minion damage a little bit more and increase your healing. And then I went into Ancient Call. Now, Ancient Call, I definitely was thinking about putting more points here, but I opted out of it because more higher priority points came up in Shaman. But definitely I will revisit this and get more points in this. This gives you more health for yourself, more health for your companions, excuse me, and your revival speed for your companions increases. Now, you wouldn't think that would be much of an issue, but every now and then when a minion does die, you have to be in melee range of the minion's body for you to resurrect it, and sometimes, especially if you are a hardcore player, that can be a somewhat of a problem. So you might have to literally just teleport back to town to resurrect your units. This will keep you from doing that because it'll obviously allow you to go up to, I believe, that 30% increased revival speed, and that's pretty damn fast. So next off, I went into Wisdom of the Wild. 42% increased spell damage. So any spells that I do happen to cast, 42% extra damage. But the big one is minion spell damage, because like I was saying, your Storm Totem and your Thorn Totem both use spell damage and spell speed. So this increases their damage by 42%, flat out. Harmony of Blades is what gives me my dual wielding. I can equip axes or swords in the offhand. I can't just equip anything. So unfortunately, my dual wielding is limited, but I can still equip axes, which counts for sickles. Sickles are what you need as your main build for minions. So honestly, I would be running 2 cracked out sickles with minion spell damage, as well as high of minion health and minion damage as you can on the 2 top stats. But that is what that is. Increased health by 2% and health restored. This is pretty good. I feel like I want to definitely revisit this and get this maxed out, because that would be 10% increased health, which is, you all know that multiplicative health on what is already additive is very, very good. As well as health restored. Every 3 seconds your next hit restores your health. Yeah, so honestly, I think that's maybe why I didn't go back to it yet, because I don't really have any attacks that I do. Currently, my minions do all of my damage. So I believe the only reason I did this is so I could do this. Increased minion damage granted 22%, and Hunter Restoration also heals minions. Now, I'm not using the Hunter Restoration, but I am using the increased minion damage. And it also pushed me further in the line so that I could get this Elder Branch. You and your totems deal additional spell damage. This bonus is tripled while using an axe. Now, axes are sickles, so if you're using 2 sickles, this counts. So this bonus is 5 extra spell damage and 5 extra totem spell damage. Now, what do we say about the totem spell damage? Increased damage for our totems is all multiplicative with our other bonuses. So this 5 is already multiplied by wearing an axe, so 15, and then multiplicative with all the percentage that we talked about before. Now, the only reason I haven't done this is because I don't really feel like my totems need any more health, and poison damage has not become a problem for my totems. Now, in the future, when I get closer to level 100, if it does become a problem for my totems and I have to increase their health, I probably will just do Ancient Call to increase companion health. Or no, that I guess that only goes for companions, so that it won't go for minions. But I'm sure there are other avenues I can go to increase my minion health to make my totems a little bit tankier. But currently they kind of do their thing, and then you resummon them anyway, and they only have a duration. So it's like if they die, you just resummon them. It's not a big deal. But I could see it being a problem late game if they get snuffed out in 1 second and don't get to deal any damage. But I have not run into that, so you'll see that here in combat here in a little while. But now going on to my Shaman build. My Shaman, I have put 8 points into Shamanic Infusion, which is the same idea that I went for Primalist, is basically just to increase that attunement even more, and to basically allow my minions, see, you and your minions, penetrate enemy physical, cold, and lightning resistances. Now, 8% penetration, you might not think that's a lot, but when an enemy has, say, 75% maxed out, and you bring that down, you're now dealing at least that 33 or 32% or whatever, some odd percent damage instead of 25%. So it does help a little bit. As well as that, I've gotten Silent Protector, which increases my armor when I have active totems and increases mana regen with active totems. So that just kind of helps mitigate that mana need when you're using the totems very, very often. As well as I have Fate Carver to increase totem damage by 80%. Now that's 8 points, but that's 8 points very well spent. 80% totem damage is incredible. Going on to Ancestral Speed. This your totems have increased cast speed and have a chance to gain haste for 3 seconds when you directly summon a totem. So 35% increased cast speed on top of the cast speed that we already discussed before in my spells. You're getting to see where it's starting to ramp up how fast my totems actually cast. As well as that haste chance. That haste is really, really good for my movement speed. Movement speed when I summon a totem. Obviously, that will help with the flow of combat to combat to combat. Now I then put 2 points into minion cold damage and minion lightning damage. I will eventually max this out because cold damage and lightning damage will be my 2 main damages. My thorns will do cold and my storm totem will do lightning. So those will be very, very good to be maxed out. I have Rune of Awe for spell damage and minion spell damage. Obviously minion spell damage increasing my damage further. Protective Circle, it gives me resistance per active totem, 6%, and elemental resistance per totem, 6%. So you can see where this can stack up a lot because that resistance, quote unquote, is all resistances, and then the elemental resistance is fire, cold, lightning. So, like the thumbnail shows, my resistances go above the maximum when I have my totems out because I summon so many totems. And they'll go even further when I get that 5th totem for my thorn totems. Now, the last of my passives is the Beastmaster passive. I've put 5 points into Feline Bond, which increases dodge rating and dodge rating for my companion. and increases my companion revive range. Now that revive range is very, very, very small in the beginning. This increases a little bit, but it's still not that crazy distance. It's still pretty much melee range, so it helps it a little bit. But the only reason I did this is so that I could get Summon Bear, because Summon Bear is a pretty decent area of effect, tanky unit that can run the front line for you. So with all that being said, I've pretty much went through the entire build. I'm going to go ahead and continue on with my quest just to show you what's going on with the build. I believe I had a portal here going back out to fight. Let's see what's going on. And I'll pretty much show you guys what it looks like to play my build. Yeah, so you can see I took a little chunk there for about 200 damage, and instantly I just right click and I can heal up to full. So you can see the lightning totem, or storm totem, excuse me, pretty much covers me while I can just kind of run around and do whatever I want. And now you can see that this build isn't running too fast, but I'll try to ramp it up a little bit and go as fast as I can to show you just how fast you can kind of just run by enemies, and you don't necessarily need to do all of the work. You can kind of, you know, right now I'm still looking for gear, so obviously I will every now and then do a little stop here and there, but the range on my units is very, very far. So you'll see when I do get chunked a little bit, I'll make a little stop, right click to heal. And right now I am low on mana, so I'm just going to gather these guys and pull them towards my totems. And yeah, you'll see that everything kind of cleans itself up. I mean, you can kind of just do like a loop around the enemies, summon your totems, kind of pull them into the enemies, and kind of loot up the way you want to. Now, this is a level 56 area, so it is 2 levels lower than me. But currently, I mean, you can kind of get the gist of it. It's pretty much, you know, one of those things where it's a lazy build for sure. Any minion build is a lazy build. It's not gonna be the most meta, the fastest dungeon clearing build, but as far as like survivability, I could pretty much stand here in the middle of these enemies if I wanted to, and use my healing abilities to keep myself alive. So yeah. This is pretty much the build here. You can see that because I am using a minion build, I cannot show you through the tooltips my actual DPS amount, but I would say that based on boss kills alone, I would say I'm pretty much on par with the 5,000 DPS I'm dealing on my Paladin build currently, and that is the Warpath build that I recently uploaded. And so yeah, no, I definitely think this is a viable build. I definitely feel like if you are playing hardcore on this game, this could definitely be a build for you, because as far as being able to survive, and being able to stay at a far distance and kind of just like send your units in, it is a very much so a lazy survivable build. Now, like I was showing before, I will show one more time. Currently I am sitting at 41 fire, 62 lightning, 58 cold. When I summon all my totems, I am at 121 fire, 142 lightning, and 138 cold, as well as 53 physical and 42 void. With a little bit slightly different item build, I can get that void maxed out and the physical really close. But like I was saying, everything is just, you know, with more items and more time in the game, obviously you'll be able to perfect this build a little bit more. But I definitely think that this is a very powerful build, a very survivable build. If anything, as long as you are proactively at least paying attention to your health. I mean, how hard is it to click a right click? And even if you... Oh, as I say that, I get killed by poison. But... obviously, that's why I'm not playing hardcore on this character, because I am just testing things out for you guys. But yeah, obviously, things like that can just pop out of nowhere. But obviously 0% poison resist. So you can see how poison is the one thing that killed me. But yeah, no, definitely it has its weaknesses. But one of those things is that this act right here is very known for poison. So it's like that's one of the main damages they're dealing, and I don't have any resistances to that. So kind of expected that. But in a normal circumstance, when you don't have 0% resistance towards something, you do pretty damn good. So anyways, I hope you guys have a good one. I hope that you guys got a little bit of knowledge out of the game from me. If anything, if you guys want to tune in for any future build videos, or if you guys have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. I would be more than happy to make a video. If you guys have any questions about the game, I have been playing it quite a bit. I've been learning quite a bit about the game. I am learning my way about crafting and crafting legendary items and things like that, and what to do with the end game stuff. So definitely, if you guys want to see a video on that, an update on Last Epoch, as I get into the end game of Last Epoch, before the beta ends here. I mean, not ends, but you know, before the game actually fully releases, I would be more than glad to go ahead and release a video for you guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys did make it to the end of the video, I would be more than happy to release more content with you guys. Please leave a like at the end of the video, and please leave a comment if you guys have any, like I was saying before, any suggestions or anything like that. I hope you have a wonderful day, and peace out, y'all.